It's kind of quasi-spiritual for me. The ride is just gorgeous. And this may sound strange, but the actual process of preparing the garment for sale is a kind of act of love. Welcome to Zestful Aging, the podcast where we celebrate aging with vibrance and we defy the stereotypes of what it means to age. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, a psychotherapist of more than 30 years, here to introduce you to my off-the-mainstream guests who will energize and inspire you. My hope is to create optimism about getting older and help you cultivate zest and joy in this season of your life. And I love to hear feedback from you, my listeners. Please drop me a line at zestfulaging@gmail.com. I read every single comment. And to find out more about this podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, today we have a mystery guest who's going to talk about the joys of thrifting and how it benefits her mental health. You might be surprised at how she uses thrifting as a way to connect with others and create tiny offerings of goodwill. No pun intended. So welcome to the show. You are a psychotherapist, podcaster, and an author, and your mission is helping people age with more zest. But lately you've been spending more time in thrift stores, and I hear you even thrifted on a recent trip to the Caribbean. Tell me about your love for thrifting. What's the draw? Well, it's one of those things that maybe either love or hate. There's something deeply satisfying for me about rescuing quality discarded clothing. I also rescued dogs, so I think there's a theme here. You know, some people have issues with what they say is taking from the poor. They say that thrift stores exist for people with less resources, and when people buy to resell, they're really taking away those clothes and hard goods for people who need them, who have lower incomes. What do you say to that? Well, I used to worry about that. And in fact, one of my friends had a problem with me thrifting for this very reason. And I know that reselling has a bad reputation. It's kind of like a used car salesperson. And people can be downright nasty about it. I know that some of the resellers have gotten really nasty comments on their social. I acknowledge right now my white middle class privilege, and I can buy new clothes, but for me, it's much more, there's much more going on than just the buying of the clothes. And I was really happy to be able to put this very question to one of my podcast guests. His name is Eric Minter. He's actually one of the world's experts on the secondhand trade. He followed donations from Arizona on their journey across the world, and he wrote this book called Secondhand, Travels in the New Global Garage Sale. It's a fabulous book. Highly recommend it. And like everything, it's really complicated. He did encourage me and all of us to buy from thrift stores because it funds the services that they provide for the less fortunate. And I'll provide his episode link in the show notes. It's really one of my favorites. It was so fascinating. I learned a lot from the conversation. He went all over the world following a batch of donated goods from Arizona. So it sounds like what you're saying is there's enough to go around. There's enough for everyone. Yeah, I'm learning that we just buy too much stuff and the excess is obvious. Like the thrift store racks right now are so jammed you can't really get through them without like squinching your fingers. I just watched a documentary called Buy Now on Netflix, and ironically, the more I thrift for others, the less stuff I want, even if they're cashmere sweaters, which are definitely my weakness. So you said earlier that thrifting is about more than shopping for secondhand clothing. What about it benefits your mental health? Well, I work for myself, and that can be pretty isolating. I spend a lot of time alone, and though I enjoy my own company, sometimes, it can be lonely. We are mammals, and, we are supposed to be with our pods. So thrifting is a way for me to be with my community and the people around me, some of whom I'd never really crossed paths with. The thrift store draws people from all walks of life. Some of them look like me and some of them don't. And I really like interacting with people I don't usually see during my everyday kind of my daily existence. It's a treasure hunt, and people tend to be pretty friendly. I've had very sweet encounters, and I've even given away my podcast cards. I'm a little embarrassed to say that this thrift store I go to, it's in a rural part of upstate New York. It's about 15 minutes from my home. They know me now, and they're even super friendly, and I just love that. Thrifters will say they love the thrill of the hunt, and I know that's a big part of it. It's just so fun. I know that there's a psychological principle called intermittent reward, meaning that you don't know when you're going to get a gem. You don't know when you're going to get rewarded. And that's the randomness that really hooks you. It's definitely a phenomenon at the thrift. And I think it's like gambling in a way. It's like, what's the next win? You're going through polyester, damage. And then there's a beautiful cashmere sweater that may or may not need a repair, but it's just hiding in there. So you're really finding a needle in a haystack. And, it's the thrill of the hunt that most of the thrifters will identify with. So are you saying it's addicting? Is that what you're saying? That's not exactly health promoting. Well, yes, I've definitely had withdrawals. It's funny to say it out loud. I guess that's the downside. I've heard other thrifters talk about, I'm not going to go. And then, they take a picture of themselves in the parking lot. It's mostly positive, but I think there is definitely that, what can I find? It hooks you that way. Hi, Zesties. Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, I would so appreciate if you would share with just one person, like a family member or a friend who would enjoy and benefit from Zestful Aging podcast. Thank you so much. Well, the part about community and connection is interesting and I guess it's unexpected. I mean, we know that that's super healthy for us, especially as we age, feeling a sense of belonging, being with people, even if they're not our best friends, just being, feeling like, people recognize you, sort of like that old show, the TV show Cheers. Yeah, that's really true for me. And as I said, the folks at my local Salvation Army, they know me now. One of the workers, a young girl, alerted me to some beautiful Italian wool suits that had just come in. And she said she noticed I buy wool suits. I was really touched that she noticed that. I think this particular store is friendly than most. It's small. It's in a small town. They greet everyone who walks in. That's not typical. And they seem to get along really well. The clerks are always like teasing each other. So the vibe is very positive. And I think that that's a real draw for me. Another plus is that it is the most beautiful drive from my house. The road runs along a stream and passes a state park with a big waterfall, which looks different every day depending on the waterfall or the rainfall. So it's kind of part of my little adventure. Well, you're making it sound almost spiritual. Yeah, I think so. Whatever that means, it's kind of quasi-spiritual for me. The ride is just gorgeous. And this may sound strange, but the actual process of preparing the garment for sale is a kind of act of love. I mean, I steam the sweaters, I shave off any pills, and then I put it on this beautiful antique mannequin I found on Facebook Marketplace. And I take the pictures to post on all the various platforms. And it reminds me of dressing dolls as a little girl. I've named my mannequin Matilda. And, she's a beauty. I really appreciate every time I put something on her because she's so well made. I don't know how old she is, but the outside of her body is a really heavy linen, and you just don't find that anymore. Now it's like the stuff they make junky coolers out of. Sometimes I'll add jewelry or a scarf. It looks so great on her, much better than just a hanger. And sometimes I just stand back and admire her. I do like to use natural light to photograph, but I do live in upstate New York. It's cloudy a lot of the time. So when the sun is out, I just grab the chance to take my pictures. I put the clothes on Matilda and away I go. So you love it up. You put your heart into it. It's not just thrifting and selling for you, right? I wrap each garment in colorful tissue paper, and then I have a little calligraphy pen, and I write "enjoy" on a small piece of cardstock, and it looks really pretty. I want my customers to feel like they're opening a gift. It's like I have this little personal touch, very different from an Amazon experience. And I think people are hungry for this just human connection, just basic human connection. I mean, I know I am. All this AI is really weird and unsettling to me. And I think it's just nice to get something that someone's put a little care into. And then there's this other part, and it's hard to describe. I guess it's spiritual. The garment has likely been worn by somebody that the buyer will never know. And I don't know either, of course. And I love that. And I'm curious, does that energy remain? Who knows? But it's really fun to consider. Well, there's a theme here about connection and care, and I don't usually equate that with thrift shopping. I think more about bargain hunting. Yes, I do love a bargain. I love getting a beautiful vintage cashmere coat for a few dollars. It's just made so much, it's such a higher quality than what's manufactured now. But it's more than that for me. I'm guessing my orientation is a little bit unique. The world just feels so hostile and ugly these days, and I guess this is a tiny way to offer some connection and kindness. When I send off the item, I'm hoping that the buyer loves it, and I feel like I'm rescuing the garment. So is that anthropomorphism of thrifted goods? It's definitely not just about selling clothes for me. It's an awful lot of work for the monetary rewards you get. And I recently received a whole batch of clothes from a relative, and it's just not the same as going and hunting for yourself. It's that's the fun part, is the hunt. And I'm still narrowing down my niche. I love vintage suede jackets, anything cashmere, and weirdly, I found some really beautiful vintage wool hats recently. I always look for leather shoes or boots from Italy. They are just made so well. I appreciate the quality. And sometimes purses. Actually, I was looking at a purse not long ago, and I found a bunch of cash inside. That was fun. People talk about that sometimes, and then other people say, oh, no, that'll never happen. And I overheard a conversation in the thrift where someone was saying, oh, yeah, they say you can find cash in purses. That'll never happen. And I thought, yeah, it did happen. It was awesome. I'm also becoming more familiar with the luxury fabrics. They just feel really different. They stand out right away in a sea of plastic polyester. Even if it's cashmere, the new stuff isn't as heavy. You can feel the difference. And compared to the stuff that's being produced now, it's night and day. Oh, so you're referring to fast fashion. Yep. You can tell a lot just by the touching. I mean, you can close your eyes. The newer stuff really feels like plastic. And I feel sad because I know that that's going to be dumped somewhere and it will not decompose. That's the stuff that's washing up on shores. I know in the Dominican Republic, it just doesn't decompose. It can be depressing. there's a lot of new stuff out there, and it's junk. And some people are familiar with Shein, Shein. They just mass produce. It doesn't look like it would survive one washing, so that's pretty depressing. So you're not a fan of the newer styles? No, not at all. Not the materials that are being used. It's just the cheapest, fastest stuff. Do you have any favorite or memorable things you've thrifted over the past few years? Yeah, last year I found a handmade pair of men's cowboy boots made from alligator, and you could tell they were alligator. That's not part of my style, but I could appreciate the craftsmanship. They were handmade in El Paso, Texas, and they didn't have a size on them. So my sweet friend Mary had her husband try them on to size them. They got a lot of interest, and they were expensive, and they took a while to sell. But the person who bought them was from Texas, and I was just really hoping he was enjoying them. I love handmade things. I also recently sold a beautiful hand-knit Icelandic sweater, and I'm a knitter, so I know what's involved with making a sweater like that, and I know how much ingredients. I know how much the materials are. It was marked at $5. The buyer loved it, left me a really sweet comment, and I was actually tempted to keep it, but I said, no, I don't need any more sweaters. Do you keep a lot of what you thrift? No, I don't. But sometimes my husband or son will discover a gem and that they want it. And I joke that I will need to charge them. Any other thoughts you'd like to share about thrifting and mental health? Well, there are thrifters. There's tons of thrifters you can follow on social media. And of course, once you follow one, it's like the algorithm, catches on, and then it's all thrifting all the time. But especially like one, she's not an older woman. She's a younger woman, but her name is Hannah Ganshaw, Ganshaw. She has her own shop called shopclothingcompass.com, and I'm learning a lot from watching her videos. She's really into natural fibers. She also has a beautiful mannequin, and you can just tell her heart is really into it. She's delightful. There's definitely a learning curve. It's kind of an art and a science. I used to go out and say, oh, that's a great brand. And, but if nobody wants it, it doesn't matter. So there are kind of two schools of thought. One is to find out what's trending and look for that. And, some of the like Patagonia, some of that kind of stuff, people will just grab that. And the other is not looking at labels at all and just looking for the materials. And that's what Hannah does. She doesn't care what the name is. If it's not a high brand, she doesn't care as long as it's like wool or Angora or silk or jute or something. So I'm starting to try to figure out my own niche. Is there a place people can see your thrifted goods or buy from your collection? Yep, I'm on eBay, Nicole's Garden 61, and I have stores on Poshmark, Mercari, and Depop. Those are the main platforms. They're all a little different. And if you're interested, just reach out to me. You can reach out to me on email, by email, zestfulaging@gmail.com, and I can send you over. But most of my things are, well, I wouldn't say, most of them are women, not all, but most of them are vintagey. Most of them are wool or silk or really solid older materials that stand the test of time. Well, that was fun. Thanks for talking to us about the mental health benefits of thrifting. Good luck at the thrift store. Well, thanks. I'm running out of room, so my next challenge is how do I make better storage decisions because my house is getting overrun by thrifted, beautiful goods. And again, if you want to learn more about my stuff, check out my eBay store, Nicole's Garden 61. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. Our theme song is All I Did Was Wait for You by Kjartan Abel. Visit Kjartan-Abel, that's KJARTAN-Abel, ABEL.com to hear more of Kjartan's work. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler.
And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest. See you then.